Hi, my name is Madeline McNeill. I am a body philosopher. I am a singer. I wrote a book, Is There a Soul? And basically what I do is I focus on the core muscles of the torso, neck, and head as the landscape for exploring philosophical questions. And we have a topic from Amanda. And Amanda, go ahead and introduce yourself.
Okay. We're being super awesome today. My name is Amanda Maule. My stage name is the Mauler. You won't know me by the Mauler because I haven't been on stage in a really long time. Outside of MCing. I did a Master of Fine Arts in Poetry, and then I pretended to complete a Master of Arts in Humor Theory. Totally didn't complete that. Sort of let everybody believe that I completed it, just so I can feel cooler about myself. Today's topic, to make me continue to feel cooler about myself, because I need to feel cool today, because I'm struggling. Today's topic is supposed dialogue, and I want to throw a concession out right away to say, in my conversations with people, kind of preliminary conversations with people about supposed dialogue, it seems to me that the supposed part isn't being quite as, it doesn't conjure exactly for my conversation partners what it conjures for me. Mm-hmm. So, with that in mind, I might have to switch around the supposed part, and that might be something that organically comes through our conversation today. I might just be nailing down some of the terminology that I use. And that's a part of the process that you had with your book, and that's part of the process that you continually engage as you kind of flesh out body philosophy. So as Madeline fleshes out body philosophy, I'm trying to flesh out humor theory. And it's huge. It's huge, and nobody knows shit about it. So it's tough for me because a lot of times when I talk to people about it, I have to teach, and then we don't necessarily get too much past that because I need other people who are able to teach it in order for me to kind of advance whatever my theories are, right? But a lot of times it just kind of double checks my knowledge about things. So really briefly, probably the most attractive part of the research that I've done is closing the window while the garbage truck shows up. Check that, it's the FedEx scam. All right. It's going to be really dramatic today, maybe.
Yeah.
So part of the most attractive thing in the research that I'd done, the most pragmatic part of the research that I've done throughout all of the research I've done in humor theory comes out of a document called the Tractatus Coislinianus. And I really want to do that thing where you put the thing on the screen, kind of like, let's run the colors, Van Dyke Brown. I really want to do that. Like, so if you can figure that out, I'll tell you how to spell it or whatever.
We'll do it.
But it's the Tractatus Coislinianus. And it's tractate, that means a document. Coislinianus, that's the book it's in. And this is from the Peripatetic tradition, and this is between Aristotle and Cicero. This document does not have an author that's like, it was that guy. Some people give it to Cicero, some people give it to Aristotle, some people give it to one of Aristotle's students, student number 1007, who's just taken notes. It's only an outline. So the Tractatus Coislinianus is an outline of the definition of tragedy and comedy. And during this time in the world, we don't have a differentiation between humor and comedy. Comedy still maintains all of its theatrics. It's tragedy is a 3-act play and everyone dies. Blam, stab, oh, don't you want to have better ethics now that you watch this play? And then a comedy then is like everybody gets fucked at the end. Woo! It's like going to a wedding. It's either like funerals or weddings. It's kind of the most classic and most stereotypical difference between comedy and tragedy. Well, within the Tractatus Coislinianus, it says, here's a tragedy, does this, and it's just really an outline. You remember those things you wrote for papers back in the day, right?
Yeah.
So it's literally just an outline. It's not super descriptive. And then it goes tragedy, 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 okay, fine, blam! and then it goes, here's the definition of comedy. And it's like this paragraph, and then it goes, these are the causes of laughter. Okay?
Okay.
There is not another theory. We have incongruity theory, we have relief theory, we have superiority theory, major theories of humor and kind of pervasive theories of humor. Then we have all these subgenres, the simultaneous script theory of humor, the general theory of verbal humor, and then we get those are like the linguistic theories of humor. And I'm sure there's psychological, and there's this other one over here. So they're like major genres, incongruity, relief, and superiority. And then we have the subgenres all over the place, right? Mm-hmm. And in my reading of these theories, nobody ever said, this is a cause of laughter. Nobody ever really said it like that. Mm-hmm. So for me as a theorist to kind of put it that pragmatically, because my original goal was to try to set up and write a book about the pragmatic rhetoric of stand-up comedy, because so many people, and I had a professor who, we read this book and it was humorous, and thank you for signing that book. Awesome. I always want to be exposed to more forms of humor. And she was like, what makes this funny? And I was like, all right, well, I have some ideas, And she was like, come on, people. She was getting really impatient with us as a class. I think it was because she wanted to teach us how smart she thought she was. But then she was like, it's understatement, it's hyperbole, it's like ba-ba-da, and it's like ba-ba-da. And I'm just sitting in my chair like going, no, understatement does not necessarily prove that it will be humorous. You have to add something to understatement to make it necessarily humorous. Mm-hmm. Otherwise we could take it really seriously. These figurative language things are things that happen in the written creative arts all the time. Mm-hmm. A lot of, like, you'll use understatement, hyperbole, juxtaposition. You'll use a bunch of these things for poetic means, for very meditative means, and maybe an essay, or for very potent and active means, maybe in fiction. And I'm not sure exactly how those all shake out, but I don't think it's enough to be able to say that these things they are not essentially humorous. They are essentially a tool of the arts. Mm-hmm. And is humor an art? I'd say so. Yeah. Does it have low art and high art stuff? Yeah, probably. Do I want it all to be high art? Yes, because it's my art. It's like, I want it, love it. So anyway, we have all these theories, and they're not very pragmatic. And a lot of people oversimplify it in order to try to have that excitement of discovering what it is, right? Mm-hmm. And so my job was to write the pragmatic rhetoric, because I was so interested in our conversation in class that day about what my teacher was saying, and I'm sure that she thought she was right, and what I was thinking, and I was sure that I thought she was wrong. And neither one of us is necessarily wrong, but there's some kind of missing description in there that makes it innately humorous and not just figurative language. Mm-hmm. Okay, so far so good?
Yeah.
Okay, all right.
Yeah,
so... And that's something I have to come through with supposed dialogue. Because this is another thing, because supposed dialogue can, like understatement, hyperbole, and all these other figurative language things you learned in high school English, 12th grade, I think you can roll it toward kind of the more mundane, not necessarily humorous, just communicating and making meaning. You can make meaning with it that's not necessarily laughter. Mm-hmm. So in the Tractatus Corsilianus, we have causes of laughter. Mm-hmm. And we have this list on the top, and that's the verbal list. These are all the grammar words, okay? And then we have this list on the bottom, and these are the actions. So laughter can be caused by words or actions. Mm-hmm. And the words are synonym, homonym, paronym, garrulity, grammar, diminutives, all these kinds of words. Mm-hmm. You know what a synonym is. And a homonym is like two words that sound alike, mm-hmm. But they're spelled different, like mm-hmm. holy and holy, mm-hmm. and holy, mm-hmm. and two and two and two, and there and there and there. So those are homonyms. And so it's like the land of puns is that top half, right? A bunch of the time. Yeah. And then the second half of the list, the actions. And this is basically not necessarily climb, that's not necessarily one of the actions, but it's kind of like where you go to get your ideas. how do you form meaning? So, for example, one of them is the first one is assimilation to the better or the worse. Taking like you where you are right now and either bringing you way up next to a king or like way down into like homeless or whatever. And this, remember, these are coming out of theatrics. So it's comparing characters to like super awesome characters, super crap characters. And then we also have debasing of personages, insults. And that's like a real George Carlin thing. And then we have like clownish and pantomimic dancing, Kevin James. Woo! And like Chris Farley, you know. And a bunch of other people. Gallagher would fit under that when he's smashing shit. And then so we have these actions, and then we have, you know, the words. And so for the longest time, here's Amanda. Go, Amanda, go! I had the list, right? I have like all these, I have like 7,000 billion copies, and it's just like, here's that list. And I time coded it, right? And I had to go like, here's garrulity, and that's going with debasing of personages. That looks a lot like George Carlin. So basically what I was trying to do is take these causes of laughter and figure out how often they happened in stand-up, where they happened, what patterns, what groups they had, what groups followed what groups, and then in order to come up with kind of a little writing prompt. Basically what I was trying to do is figure out how to write a writing prompt. Basically I was making a really, really complex version of a Mad Lib, okay? Because Mad Libs go like, you need to put an adjective right here. And for me, it would be like, you need to put a homonym right here. Yeah. And then down here, just go with some of those diminutives. Yeah, get a diminutive down here, and then blah, 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 and use all that. Yeah. My problem when I was doing this is I would go like, I'd be watching, and all of a sudden, ha, 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 ha. And I'd be like, and I'd be like, where is it on this list? No. So I couldn't find it on the list. So I just have these giant gaps. And this is when I was just doing time coding. 1 minute, 2 minute, 3 minute, 4 minute, 5 minute. So I started to do it kind of just a little bit differently. I just connected. Here's this one, there's that one, here's this one, here's that one. And just kind of like, it doesn't matter what the time code is. It's just what happens next, what happens next, what happens next, what happens next. And then I just, like, so much of contemporary stand-up comedy is this supposed dialogue thing. And so just to kind of give an idea of what I mean by that, back in the day when Adam Sandler was just like getting really awesome, before everybody went like, yeah, whatever. Back when like super immature people like me, because I was like whatever I was, like 16, I had the cassette tape or whatever with my immature humor, and he was doing like the longest speech, just basically pouring a bucket into.
I remember that one.
Yeah.
My dad came into my younger brother's room, and I think he listened to it, and he's just like, David, this is crap. You must destroy it now. Have a good day. It was really awkward.
So, and I believe it happened on SNL. So my most basic, the way I'm complaining it to people, is that Adam Sandler had this bit on SNL, and it goes like something like this, and it's like, and then I was all, and then she was all like, and then I was all like, and then she was all like, and then I was all, and then she was all, and then basically it's the she was all supposed dialogue. I was all supposed dialogue. He was all supposed dialogue. And basically, that's not dialogue. It's like normally what you put in quotes, right? If you're writing creatively or whatever, or you're quoting somebody, it's exactly what was said. So supposed dialogue can have a quality of summation. So basically it writes a summary of whatever that actual dialogue was. So you can write an emotionally charged summary of whatever that dialogue was. So that's one example of it. Go ahead. Okay.
Well, I was thinking, so this might be coming at it from a different angle, because for me, when you were just in those grunts, it's, I mean, those are all core postures of different emotional states. So like, you know, like, that's this kind of gruntly, like, what was that? That was this stupid, but it's kind of like low and aggressive. And then if she's just like, that's kind of like whiny, and it's like a little bit higher, and it's like just reminiscent of the kinds of tones that some kind of, just going on stereotypes, you know, like blonde kind of valley girl, just like, I want this.
Yeah.
Or like a little kid, that kind of thing. And so it's drawing on these patterns, these patterns of vocalized emotions, the tone. Watch your tone, that kind of thing. That's what I do, is I focus on the tone. And I think that that's often more important, almost always more important than the words, because you could ask me, like, how are you doing today? I'd be like, good!
Yeah.
And the word doesn't mean shit, right?
Yeah.
So I don't know how that fits into what you just said as far as creating a summation. I don't know if you were taking that, like, and saying that, were you saying that was a summation of
whatever was actually said.
Mm-hmm.
And apparently, like, what's happening with Adam Sandler is he's saying these characters didn't even say words. Mm-hmm. And then it brings to mind actually a bit that Louis C.K. just recently did. And he's basically in a coffee shop, and somebody's like, he's like, he basically analyzes. He witnesses a dialogue. He witnesses a conversation, and then he remembers it and analyzes it because it struck him so. Mm-hmm. So basically, these two people are talking. He's like, and this guy's like, he didn't even say the word. It just like escaped out of him or whatever. And he basically is kind of like, it's a method. Suppose a dialogue can also go like, these people were talking. And what did they actually sound like? What did they actually mean when they were talking? Taking the conversation and summarizing what actually happened in it without just, it's not necessarily just reading through between the lines. Mm-hmm. It's a little bit more complicated than that because it adds all of the analysis and the emotional content. These two people are talking in the coffee shop. He's like, you'll never believe what happened today. And he's like, or you never guess who I saw today. And that's when the guy goes, who? He doesn't even say who. It goes, who? It's like, I saw Barney, whoever it is, and he's like, that's hilarious. And Louis C.K.'s like, that is not hilarious. It is not. Did it make you want to piss yourself and almost die because it was so funny? That is not hilarious at all. So basically, he's taken like this dialogue and supposing what's actually going through, like, you suppose what's going through their head. Like, I can't even bother to have a whole articulated who. Like, I can't even go ooh, or whatever. That's what he's saying. Like, I don't want to do that. Right. And me doing that right now is like, it's like anytime I put on my like bro voice, bro. So imitations become like part of the supposed dialogue thing. So supposed dialogue, you can just summarize what other people said, right? Take the whole actual sentence of whatever they said and just clip it and add a couple of words and then just kind of put a bunch of emotional danglies on it. And be like, there it is. Or it can be like a supposed dialogue can also take place between characters that would never talk to each other. Lettuce and bacon, right? Yeah. So things that don't talk, humans and dogs, right? Or people that don't talk, like Trump and like Bernie, or like whoever. Like, so Trump and Bernie walk into a bar, blah blah blah. This is what happened. So it's kind of doing that same thing, but verbally, right?
Do you mean without words?
With words.
Oh, with words.
So they're like, so we can be summative and like not even use words, right? We can summarize and kind of that's the most basic examples that Adam Sandler one. Most of like contemporary comedians, like as soon as I kind of tried to have this as an idea, I'd be like, there it is again, just sitting outside listening to Pandora, like Today's Comedy or Bill Burr or like whoever I'm listening to. It just happens over and over and over and over and over, and everybody's using it. Everybody seems to have something that has either like some summary of what two people actually said and some like analysis sort of it within the kind of retelling of the conversation. So you basically rebuild the dialogue, or it's like totally building like a fake dialogue to say this is what it probably sounded like I just said. And then Jim Gaffigan, this whole meta dialogue that he has on stage, that kind of woman conservative, reactive persona that follows all of his I think it's his wife writing herself into all of her jokes, because like he says that she helps him with it, and it's probably like some of it's like actually whatever her reactions are, because she's like the super guy like, and so like when he's doing his giant list of bacon jokes, he's like, it becomes a game of finding the bacon in the lettuce, you know, blah blah blah. I even like the sound of bacon, blah, blah, blah. It sounds like applause, doesn't it? You can't tell me Kevin Bacon's success isn't somewhat based on its name. He wasn't going to be that successful if he was Kevin Hot Dog. And then meta-discourse voice, supposed dialogue, I was like, how many bacon jokes does this guy have? Mm-hmm. This has got to be the end of the bacon jokes. And he's like, so bacon, blah, 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 blah. And he just keeps going. So that's all over Jim Gaffigan. Mm-hmm. And so it gave me pause to wonder, is it a stylistic thing? Is it just like a persona thing? Is it something that a specific comedian will do, like Jim Gaffigan just does it over and over and over and over again? Mm-hmm. Or is it just like a thing and then people choose how they do it? And it seems like it's just a thing. And so I have to come through whatever supposed dialogue is, because I have these different examples of what it seems like to me. But if I say, if you suppose a dialogue with me and tell somebody about it, it might not necessarily be humorous. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? So I have to figure out what makes it actually humorous. And it seems to me that something about its fakeness is championed. Mm-hmm. So
championed, you mean focused on?
It's important that it be known that this is fake.
I see. Mm-hmm. Because he accepted it as truth, because it's the yes and then it becomes the no. We've talked about this before, how laughing is a yes-no process, and so, yeah, if we had a understanding that everybody understands this as yes, as true. I kind of hate that word true, because
it's like acknowledgement.
Yeah, so everybody accepts this with a yes, and then you with the supposed dialogue, it's like everybody has an understanding of the context.
Everybody's heard Everybody's heard a conversation before. Sorry.
Yeah.
So it's like you have that construct in your mind. You've all heard conversations. Mm-hmm. Another example I should give you really quickly, because it might come right in there. I think it might come right in where you're going. Is the what I wish I would have said to somebody. Mm. Yeah, TSA agents, suck it! Essentially, getting into that kind of thing.
You mean...
Because it's like the yes, no, and that context is already there. It's like, ooh, I wish I would have said bah, bah, bah. Everybody has that moment where I didn't get to say da, da, da. Mm-hmm. And here the comedian gets to show us, this is what it sounds like when you do that.
Yeah, this is when you're right on top of it. Right on top of it.
Or they gain authority because they make believe that they actually said that to the TSA agent, and you know that they didn't. But they're basically what they're saying, they're implying that I wish I would have said this, but I'm gonna present it as if this is what I actually said, and everybody goes like, "Oh my God, you're so badass! How did you come up with that shit on the top of your head?" That's me doing supposed dialogue right there, right? That whole group of people. This is how we clap.
There's a lot of material to do that kind of work, because you're breaking something down that's absurd. I mean, there's something dysfunctional or wrong or absurd about this context that everybody accepts as being right, and point it out, and then encapsulate it in a way that makes more sense, points out what's wrong with it, makes more sense, and in that same way, I should have said that, this would have been much better, would have encapsulated the entire my feelings and what I wanted to say and how I wanted to understand this right in the moment, and then they would have gotten it, and they just would have been like, oh. That put me in my place.
How dare you put me in my place?
We always do this when we do the Thursdays. Thursdays are the days when people
get down on grass. I hate how long this grass is getting.
Yeah, it's good thing
apparently it's just short enough on Wednesday. Be like, all right, you get a pass for another day. Yeah. I'm doing it again.
Yeah.
This is the supposed dialogue that the landscaper guy is having with your 4 feet of grass out there. Ooh.
Yeah. It's important.
Super important. Keep it high and tight, yo.
I like giving that a title, the supposed dialogue. There's a lot of it.
Well, because we practice because we're a social species, and we talked about that before. Yeah. That was back when we were over at Spaceman. Spaceman Coffee, by the way. Check it out, Spokane. Yeah. Plug! And if there's anything happening above there, just definitely go to it. Oh no, I lost it. So we talked about... What were you just saying? Help.
What was I just saying? If we rewind the tape. There's a lot of supposed dialogue.
Oh, it's happening all the time. Yeah. Oh, thank you. Oh God, I'm so sorry, everybody. Super unprofessional moment by me. Also, great vocalized pause right there, Amanda. We practice having conversations because we're a social species, and as a social species, we have to be able to predict how conversations we're gonna go, and how we should learn how to have better conversations to be more persuasive. All of our interactions are persuasive to some degree. We're persuading somebody to agree with us. We're persuading somebody to follow us. We're persuading somebody to get the fuck away from us. Whatever we're persuading. Or just we're persuading that, like, hi, it's safe to walk next to me while I'm walking through this mall. Whatever. We're always persuading something. And so it makes sense that we practice how we're going to say things as we did earlier. Like, what am I going to say later? What are you going to say to your people when you're upset with them, right? What are you going to say to your people when you're excited about what they're doing? So we get to practice conversations all the time, and supposed dialogue gives us kind of that low-stakes kind of practice it in your head. Of course, we can't predict everything, but it gives us an opportunity to hash through what will it be like. That's kind of its practical use. And then you can push it into an artistic use and find camaraderie and agreement. You can have something that you all can acknowledge. And so I'm not giving you all this jargon all the time. It's something that we both understand. And that's probably why it's a pervasive mechanism in humor, because we have to talk about topics that everybody's got some kind of understanding of. This is why the same topics are overdone. Not overdone, but like they keep being investigated by artists. So love, war, hate, whatever, existential crisis, nature, relationships between men and women, relationships romantically wherever, siblings, families, these things, gods, religions, these things are things that everybody has some kind of idea about somehow. Not everybody has some kind of idea of string theory. So talking about string theory, you have to do a bunch of teaching, and it gets into a different form. And then I think a lot of the times when I've heard people use metaphor, like another form of this, like a side, like a sibling of supposed dialogue would be like metaphor and analogy. And then, those are kind of blank. But it's a different way to learn something. Because you still, I think with supposed dialogue, you are, anytime you talk, shut up, Amanda. Like anytime you talk, you're giving information in some way. And supposed dialogue is just giving it the context of like an actual, what a conversation would be like. And hey, remember that one time you had that conversation?
Yeah. And so the difference between context and supposed dialogue, it sounds like, I think it'd be good to figure out exactly how they relate to each other. But supposed dialogue has to do with words and emotional state that like a group of people would have. That it's like that kind of emotional and linguistic context. Would you say that that's true, or because context seems to be related to supposed dialogue?
And I think it's the context of what a conversation is like. So you're putting these fake words. You take these fake words and you put them into the context of a normal conversation.
Fake words. Put them to the norm. You have to say that again.
So you take a fake thing that's been said
Uh-huh.
hasn't actually been said.
Okay.
And you present it in the form, in the context of an actual thing, of how things are actually said. And that's so, it might be so simple because it goes like, I talk, and then you talk, and then I talk, and then you talk, and then I talk. That's all a dialogue is.
Well, but...
Hopefully people think in a little bit, but like it doesn't have to.
So, but suppose dialogue doesn't necessarily have to have something fake. Does it? Is that part of your definition?
For me, I think I think the fakeness needs to be presented.
Okay.
Either in the way that it's implied to say, you could probably understand that I didn't say this to the TSA agent, but let's just go there and do that.
But you mean suppose dialogue as a function of humor? I mean, I was thinking it more of like suppose dialogue is just something that everybody does.
Oh, okay, yeah.
So, can suppose dialogue exist in your definition outside of humor?
Yeah, and it's like self-coaching. It becomes self-coaching then in the way that I consider it. Or self-analysis or some kind of emotional working through. Suppose dialogue being like, I'm going to summarize what I said and what he said and what I said and what he said, and I'm going to analyze it to figure out what the hell that's actually doing. So I think, but that's actually taking actual kind of quotes out of something. But whatever, you might not remember everything. You just have to kind of take what you can remember and try to piece it back together. Or you might kind of, so that's like a past tense use of supposed dialogue. You're using the dialogue that happened before, summarizing it, trying to find meaning out of it. And then supposed dialogue toward the future is going like, I have to go talk to him, so what is it that I need to say? And so you practice what you need to say. And so that has a big element of reality. And like, that for me has a big element of reality, right? And so that's, I think, particularly why when I'm trying to say what makes supposed dialogue specifically humorous, I think that's why I'm trying to pull it toward the fake. And if anybody has any ideas, oh my god, please tell me. Come talk to me.
I think what I'm getting from it is that people have this agreement of these supposed dialogues, these contexts for understanding things, and when they are dysfunctional or unhealthy or just kind of strange, it's fair game for a comedian to understand these thinking patterns of people and point it out and change people's supposed dialogue, make it a new dialogue. And so there's that element of surprise. People had this acknowledgement, agreement amongst each other of what this was, and this comedian, this guy, girl, woman comes in, just like, wait, this is wrong, and this is why, and this is a better way to think of it while I'm kind of breaking it down and in this little capsule of awesomeness, which I can't do very well. I'm not a comedian.
So yeah, it's about recognition. The comedian's job is to recognize something that the audience hadn't already said. Your job is to bring some kind of new information to the audience, or to allow them to put more stock in some kind of supposition that they've had. Like, man, is it just me? Are these fucking Fruit Loops fucking weird, man?
Right.
Or I don't know, whatever.
Yeah.
So to be able to go like, the comedian goes like, fucking Fruit Loops are weird, dude, and this is exactly the freaking frack why.
Yeah.
And so it's recognizing things in society, but still like finding a way to explain it in a way that hasn't been explained. And the neat thing about humor is that it's not didactic. It's enthymematic. So enthymemes require the audience to do the work to put together the pieces. Didacticism says like, here's piece A, put it in the corner. Here's piece B, put it on that one. Here's piece C, fucking put it there. And enthymematic humor goes like, here's a piece, it's kind of cool, right? Seems like it's living on the edge. And you go like, I think he's making a code to me that it's on the edge. Here's a cool piece, man. That's pretty bright and shiny, eh? Bright and shiny, what does that mean? What does that mean? And here I'm doing supposed dialogue again. And then you go like, where's this piece go? Where's this piece go?
Yeah.
It's like, all right, here's another piece, man. It's black like the night. It's like, okay, these probably don't go together, but what if they do? And then the punchline of the joke, you go like, oh, no, oh, and then you go, and then you go like, is this right? This is right, right? I'm right. Oh my God, ha ha ha, ha ha ha. 6 laughs is what you get out of that puzzle thing. Exactly 6. And so didanticism goes like, I'm going to teach you because I need you to do this right now, and let's go, and I'm trained. It's like job training, right? Mm-hmm. And then humor's anthematic thing goes like, it's the way that teachers want to teach, but they really can't, because you can't get 25 students at the same time to put all those puzzle pieces together with the same amount of cues. But you can with adults because they're practiced at like learning things in a certain way. Mm-hmm. So the job of a humorist is to put the pieces out there and to give the clues. Mm-hmm. And it's the job of the audience to receive the clues in that order and with those clues, and then they have to recognize the truth of whatever happened. Mm-hmm. And have that yes no moment. Mm-hmm. Where it goes like, maybe not, but yeah, no, okay, now I understand how the whole puzzle looks.
I think it's really important also for me to reiterate the importance of the release exercise. You know, the laughing releases the tension, it shakes things out, it's like you're starting over in the body to understand something in a new way. Because if I have, let's say, a lot of tension around a topic, or it's just something I don't understand, I'm a little frustrated or confused about it, it's in the subconscious, so it's like there's supposed dialogue, and this thing just bothers me, and then I hear a comedian says, this is why it's bothering you, and this is says in a way that I just start laughing, so you break up that tension, and then you form a new way of emotionally relating to this topic. Mm. I like humor a lot for that reason. I think where I have a problem, and this kind of tangents a little bit, I have a problem with humor and just art sometimes in general is when people make fun of supposed style or context that people have, but they don't actually, you get in the habit of just kind of laughing about it, but a person isn't pushing an audience to a better way of thinking. It's just cycling through
some old shit.
It's some old
That's
shit.
some Lisa Lampanelli shit right there.
Yeah.
It's like, by the way, remember this stereotype? Okay. And that's it. Just like, fucking I hate the black people, don't you? That's all she really says. Mm. That's what that kind of humor, I agree with you. And that's my example of it. The humor that just basically rehashes the stereotype without you having to do any work on the side about what that is. And I think the Onion does a really, really great job of going like, in that kind of thinking, little fucked. And that's why I taught the Onion when I was teaching. And then I think comedians are unfortunately successful by playing on stereotypes without having any kind of action plan against the violence and subordination that stereotypes act in the world, right? The way that using stereotypes typically acts in the world subordinates, demoralizes, separates. It doesn't cause a new kind of understanding. Mm-hmm. And so for Lisa Lampanelli to go through all of her racial slurs in a big machine gun fucking... I hate her, sorry. Mm-hmm. I just hate that that's a success. I don't hate her. Obviously, it's if you can get success out of something, then it's not your fault that you're successful at it. That you can gain success out of just rattling off racial slurs. Mm-hmm. And she would probably contest that she's not just rattling off racial slurs, but damn it, once it's edited and put out on the world today, that's sure what it looks like. Mm-hmm. So here's an example of where the potential of art isn't pushed to make art actually work for the social species, right? Mm-hmm. And for the benefit of the social species. Mm-hmm. That type of humor I think that's just like repeating what you're not supposed to say, not supposed to say, not supposed to say, without saying like, why is this something we're not supposed to say?
Mm-hmm.
And by having it be so repetitive, it doesn't actually, to me, by having it just like that's your one note, it's very monotone, right? It doesn't. By having it be so monotone, it never questions itself for me as to whether or not that's a good idea. And it just basically then says to me, this is a really good idea. It's not I don't think it's a really good idea. I think we have a lot more potential in any art to communicate more than just like, here's all your stereotypes.
Right. I liked this comedian, and I can't remember his name totally. Was it Mike Bigliani?
There's Mike Birbiglia.
Birbiglia.
He sounds a lot like Tom
Birbiglia.
Segura does. Like until you listen to him a ton. I think I confused them when I first listened to them without actually seeing them.
I wish I had more of a understanding of all of the comedians, because I don't. So I'm like, I don't know who Segura is, but I know who
That's
Segura
right.
is.
Like that. Yeah.
Anyway, what I liked about this one video that I saw of him was that he was telling a story. I mean, he was going back and forth between childhood memories and relating it to his relationship now, and it was full of humor, but it was part of this story, and I really appreciated how he was making bigger commentary on the world, but he was also very personal in talking about his life and telling just personal stories, making them really funny, and then communicating that it's important to be able to keep humor in life, ask questions throughout life, break down and laughing, rethink, evolve, change, because there was a lot of evolution and change in this as he progressed through the story. So it was presenting a way of living more than an answer.
It's a methodology, right? In the same way that sports dialogue is a methodology.
Yeah.
Try this out. Try this behavior out. See if it works.
I'm sure it took a shit ton of work. I mean, all comedians, I'm sure, have spent so much time on their jokes. But I feel that is where so much humor has been done. I mean, there's so many ways to analyze it now. I mean, and a lot of people have that. I wonder where the evolution of it is going, and to me, it seems like that is more of where it's going. It's
that the research is trying to discover the next big thing in humor.
I think that once something becomes normalized, it becomes easier to codify it, analyze it, find the patterns in it, and once it becomes codified, it can be taught, and so it becomes history in a lot of ways, and so it's no longer. It's just kind of been thoroughly explored in a lot of ways, and then so you start to move into what's new,
what's not accounted for in that explanation. I think that's most of what's happening in humor theory. It's like people have big theories. It goes like, yeah, kind of, right? It's really close, right? It's super close, right? And this is good enough, right? Oh, can't we do that? Oh, God, it's like a hairbreadth away. Isn't it good enough? And the thing with humor theory is it's never good enough. Yeah. Nobody is able to describe with any kind of singularity what makes something funny. There's way, way too much happening. It always has to be some kind of system. So when you're trying to explain a system, you get the basic pattern down. You get incongruity theory happening. Like, here's the thing, they're not the same, and then you smash them together. But then what does that say to you when you're trying to, okay, I want to be a comedian, right? I want to write some really funny shit. Sweet, let me do it. And how do I do that? You have to take two things that are totally not the same and then smash them together, and then try to have some kind of justification about why they need to be together, and then like explain with talent how those two things come together. Well, according to incongruity theory, what I'm supposed to do when I'm a comedian, when I'm an aspiring comedian, I'm just supposed to sit down and write a giant list of two things together. All right, socks and kiwis. All right. Next, peg leg and pepper shaker. I'm going with peas apparently on that one. So according to incongruity theory, that's the thing I'm supposed to do. Yeah. And the problem with the theories is that they don't translate over to the pragmatics. And this is why I'm trying to use the Tractatus Coitonianus, and I'm trying to discover what are these missing elements. What are the missing elements that cause a contemporary society to laugh that weren't necessarily accounted for when it was still couched in the form of theater, right? Because in incongruity theory, like, I can't write that way. I'm not going to write that way. Have I tried? Yeah! It's kind of fun. It's sort of like Madeline's, but not exactly. But it's just, for me, it's so laborious, which is going to be your topic soon. Labor! It's so laborious to try to do that for so long and have all these things in this list that you can't really do anything with. Is that the process of writing comedy anyway? Yes. Are you going to write 100 jokes and have one good one? Yes. But is this the best way to create a mindset for humor? I don't think so. Then we have relief theory, and relief theory goes like, once the truth is recognized in the surprise, everybody feels better about it. So what am I trying to do? Make everybody feel better about stuff? If I look at George Carlin, that's not what's happening. Okay, if I look at George Carlin, that's superiority theory. It's like, I'm better than this is better than that, that's better than this. It's basically a social mechanism to say, this is how people should behave. I'm going to control the population by telling people this is awesome, do that. This is shitty, I'm going to laugh at you if you're the shitty thing. So superiority theory. Do I want to do that necessarily? Sometimes. Am I a pissed bitch right now? Yeah, I'm pretty mad about life right now. I got a lot of shit to say. So do I want to do that? Nah, not really, because I still want to have friends. Like, is that, like, it's basically, like, if you use the theory to try to help you write humor, it seems like you have to subscribe yourself to that way of thinking. I don't want to always be thinking in, like, randomizations, because then I won't be in the moment. I don't want to always think about relief, because that's not going to, as we were talking about last time, it won't necessarily exercise the completeness of my identity. So I'm trying to discover, like, the pragmatic way. Like, try supposed dialogue for a while. Try debasing of personages for a while. Try clownish and pantomimic dancing. Try, and I always forget, like, it's 14 things long on that second half of the list. But
one thing that I notice about when I think about comedians who have been successful, is they don't get personal. Now it seems like comedians are getting more personal. That was very personal, and you got a window into who he is, what his life is like. A very personal window, but I don't think could say that with Adam Sandler or
George Carlin was like really specifically impersonal.
Yeah. All of these comedians that I've heard you say, Gallagher, and they don't talk about their lives at all.
I'm trying to think of who does. Brian Regan does.
Is he the Australian?
So Brian Regan.
So bad. I don't know who anybody is.
He's like, I can't, like, he does that, I didn't have hearing. He's like, well, a couple 4th of Julys ago, firecracker went off my ears, and now I don't hear very well. Yeah. So he has that whole bit, and it's also like when he was growing up, he's trying to find the pearls. You know, like, all right, what's the plural of oxen? Very good. You know, what's the plural of moose? Moosen! And then he just has this, like, panic, like, moose and oxen, and it's really pretty cool. It's absurd, but yeah. So he talks about himself a bunch. I think Tig Notaro talked about herself, right? So I have cancer. Oh, it's okay. I just have cancer. It's totally gonna be okay. I just have cancer. And then that, according to Louis C.K., was like the best bit he'd ever seen. He thought it was brilliant. A lot of people think her thing was brilliant. And I don't know if women... women seem to be a little bit more concrete. Even if they don't talk about themselves, they seem to be a little bit more... Except for Margaret
personal. Cho. She talks about herself.
Yeah. She mostly, like, uses her mom.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Which I really like. I definitely see that. I think that that's a new thing. That is, comedians have evolved to just be much more personal, and I think that's good. I think that
CK's a lot. Yeah, because CK's idol was Carlin, and CK is really personal. Like you get his different bits. You can tell what album it's on because it's like, oh yeah, this is after the divorce. And it's like, oh yeah, his kids are like 7 right now. You know, it's he talks a lot about his family, and I feel like that's a way to find, to be able to justify your knowledge on a thing is to talk about something that's personal. But I also think that it puts at risk like whatever other people think that you're doing with them, because suddenly they're not people anymore and they're characters in your nationally acclaimed album about blah blah blah. So I wonder about that.
You know, I think it really actually just reflects the times in that celebrities have Twitter accounts. People are becoming much more recognized as just regular people. They're, everybody's human. Celebrities are talking more about fame and how stupid it is. How like an actor will come up and just say, being famous is my job, and when I'm at home with my kids, it's just regular life like anything else, and people aren't afraid to say that. And I think we're starting to value as a culture that we need to think of each other as people, as regular people that have these needs, the same needs that everybody else has, and that kind of thing. So I don't know.
I'll have to investigate that further.
Yeah.
Is stand-up comedy getting more personal?
More humanized.
I'm not sure. I don't know. I have like my 3 stations, and then I have the one station that I listen to kind of punish myself. Be like, you have to listen to everything. You have to listen to Fluffy.
Yeah.
You have to listen to the Blue Collar Comedy Tour. You have to listen to Jeff Dahmer. Have to. Just to understand there's a huge range, The thing with art right now is there's so many avenues to get your shit to your people that you've got tons of little subcultures within every art. If you have some kind of art, just do it. Just fucking do it. You will find an audience somehow, because you don't have to find an audience by walking across the ocean to go see it. Hey, all right.
Yeah.
Made it on the boat. Woo! Didn't know you were going to love me so much, but I read it all.
We started with supposed dialogue. I mean, it's still related.
Because I think the thing that happened there is I was like, all right, in order to understand what I mean by supposed dialogue, I'll have to go through ready, set, tractatus coitus lineatus. Ah!
Yeah. Trying to think of how to sum up. I think we're about out of time. But
yeah. So make up insults to people you wish you would have said. Write those down. Feel good about them.
Yeah. But I think supposed dialogue. I like the idea that there are. Is it immense and abundant? Yeah.
It's an immense and abundant.
Immense and abundant world of supposed dialogue that people individually have, but it's informed by culture, and so huge groups of people have these supposed dialogue habits going on, and comedians. Many artists, but I'm thinking comedians will investigate how people are thinking, and they investigate and observe how groups of people are thinking, even if the people themselves they don't realize how they think. So that's a talent, and I think a necessity. It's essential for a comedian to be able to do that, to observe how people think. And I think that some comedians do bits so that they take maybe just a little line of how people think. This is how people think about bacon, he said, and you make a little joke about that. But I personally appreciate comedians that talk more about how we think about deeper topics, about relationships, about things that everybody deals with, that's new and is important for how we live our lives now and what it means in the future.
It's doing some heavy lifting, eh?
Yeah.
The thing that came to mind for me, like all of a sudden, was in one of the, I think last week's episode we talked about mind. Maybe it wasn't last week. While we were talking about mind, whenever it was, whether we were talking about we had the huge thing about sub-vocalization and sub-posturing, and so it just occurred to me that because we talked about how that can be excruciating. And it can actually take you out of performance when you start to sub-vocalize and coach yourself or whatever. And so, interestingly, supposed dialogue seems to be the opposite of that, almost. It's like the same family, but the opposite sort of expression. To say, instead of sub-vocalizing that whole time, here I'm going to take that sub-vocalization and actually say it and exercise it and make it be robust. And so, that's my link. That's my cool link for you, to say supposed dialogue is a form of sub-posturing and sub-vocalizing that takes those imagined experiences and makes them realities, so that they don't become a pattern necessarily of exhaustion.
That's awesome.
Maybe?
Yeah, I like it.
Maybe.
That's good. All right, we are done. This is Body Talk. I didn't say that at the beginning. This is Body Talk. I am Madeline McNeill. And this is Amanda Maule. And thanks for watching.
Cheers, y'all.
Bye.